We are looking to buy certain types of automobiles from the US and certain types of automobiles from the UK. So there's a small niche market in India for automobiles of that type and that price, but it's there. Then alcoholic beverages or
Yes.
alcoholic drinks, whether it's scotch or whether it's bourbon, depending on which is cheaper, there will be a market, bigger market for that particular category in India.
Hello and welcome to TS Talks. Today we have with us Mr. Ashok Malik. He is partner of the Asia Group and chair of the India chapter. Well, before this, he served as policy advisor to the government of India and also as press secretary to former President Ramnath Kovind. He's also been a policy advisor to the government of India. Thanks for being with us, Ashok. Great to have you on
Thank you.
TS. Well, let's start with the rather obvious question. Of course, the Trump tariff has been talked about. There is a lot of uncertainty about with the Trump tariff. How do you think India should play its cards, and how do you think India can really negotiate and sort of tide this phase?
Well, India has negotiated tranche 1A of its bilateral trade agreement with the US. I understand the numbers, the tariff numbers have been more or less agreed to. The final decision is pending with the White House. It needs President Trump to sign off on it. My understanding is it's a reasonable package. India's offered trade access in more areas than it has previously, including in some parts of agriculture, such as nuts, fruits, and so on. Dairy is more difficult. It's also offered to buy more energy, more commodities, more chemicals from the US, as well as automobiles to some degree, to the degree they sell in India. Again, depending on where the tariffs land, if India's tariff number is significantly lower than that of peer countries such as Vietnam or China, India can hope to export more to the US in terms of electronics and mobile phones, and in terms of garments and wearables, fabrics, and also shoes, toys, leather products. So it could see a boost for bilateral trade, but we need to see when the deal gets done.
You spoke about agriculture, dairy. Now, these are sectors which are extremely politically sensitive.
Which is why India will not be able to offer as much access on them as the US might want.
At the same time, this week, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting the UK, and officially the trade deal that India and UK will be signed officially. Now, how do you think, do you think that template can serve India to sort of negotiate its the other trade deals that it is sort of currently?
The US and the UK are very different markets. The US is still a manufacturing economy in the way the UK is not. But there are some commonalities. We are looking to buy certain types of automobiles from the US and certain types of automobiles from the UK. So there's a small niche market in India for automobiles of that type and that price, but it's there. Then alcoholic beverages or
Yes.
alcoholic drinks, whether it's scotch or whether it's bourbon, depending on which is cheaper, there will be a bigger market for that particular category in India. Also, in terms of services with the UK, there's a strong relationship which can become stronger. Indian food exports, Indian electronic manufacture exports can grow. But to be honest, the UK deal was easier to do because the UK is a smaller country, a smaller economy, and a less complex economy than the US.
Also, after the UK, Mr. Modi is expected to visit the Maldives. Now, Maldives has been rather the ties, Maldives ties sort of have been going through a rough patch. Do you think with this visit, we can expect some kind of a resetting of bilateral relations?
This visit the outcome of a reset. Yes, there were political problems, especially when the current government came to office in the Maldives, and it came to office on a sort of anti-India platform, really. But once they came to office, they recognized that the economic and developmental benefits that the partnership with India offered, and the conditions and terms of that offering was such that it was entirely in Maldives' interest to continue with that partnership. And that is the lesson, not just to the Maldives, but to some degree Nepal has learned that lesson, Sri Lanka has learned that lesson. And I'm confident in times ahead, maybe even Bangladesh will. Because India, generally speaking, is a better, more generous partner than certain other partners. Also, geographically, India is much closer. You can't dismiss geography entirely. What India also needs to do is perhaps incentivize these countries to integrate their economies more strongly with the Indian system, and maybe offer greater market access where possible. But if you look at the COVID era, Maldives' tourism industry was revived entirely because of the special arrangement it made with India. So there are benefits which our smaller neighbors see with India, but they also have sensitivities which we need to be alive to.
Last week, Mr. Jaishankar was in China, and again, even when we talk of India-China, there is hope that things would sort of become better between India and China. Now, do you see that happening? Because a lot of economic integration has happened between India and China, whatever said and done.
Well, look, the political relationship is slightly better than it was because some friction points on the border have been settled. They were settled at the end of last year, I think October 2024. But the broader problem that began in 2020 when the Chinese brought troops to areas and to border zones where they had no business being there remains.
And now the Brahmaputra, the dam over
Now the dam issues also come up, and Pakistan, China's support to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor has also come up. So there are broader issues. Having said that, we are facing a predicament many other countries are facing. China is a formidable economic power. It's a manufacturing economy like no other. Even for manufacturing in India, we need to buy components and intermediaries from China, whether for mobile phones or pharmaceuticals. To build factories in India, we need to buy machinery from China.
Critical minerals.
Critical minerals, of course, for many industries, including magnets for automobiles. So, without sacrificing our core interest and while being mindful of not cooperating with China in sensitive areas such as semiconductors or data sharing, where there is a genuine concern, or for example, robotics or quantum computing, without sacrificing those core interests, some degree of trade with China, a significant degree of trade with China is obvious. It will have to happen. But of course, there have to be guardrails. There has to be greater trust between the two countries.
Do you see that happening now after Mr. Jaishankar's visit? Do you see that sort of the ties sort of thawing and becoming better in the near future?
There's certainly hope, but the fact is the Chinese have also blocked fertilizer supplies to India, which is, they've blocked it to other countries as well, but the quantum of blockage with India is of a greater degree. So there are things that the Chinese do that raise hackles in India and get people wondering. I don't think it'll ever be a stable relationship or a normal relationship, but there will be moments when we can cooperate and moments when we will not cooperate.
And also talking about trade deals, like, we saw Mr. Piyush Goyal talking about the four-nation European bloc. Of course, EU is also in the pipeline. Do you think India should now aggressively diversify its exports markets, considering there is a kind of an uncertainty in the US dynamics, overall?
For certain exports, frankly, the quantum of the US market is such that nobody else can replace it. And that's a challenge not just for India, but for many countries. However, I'd agree with you that not just for exports, but for imports as well, for building trade relations and for giving other countries a stake in the Indian economy, uh, either as exporters or as importers, we need to aggressively and in a very granular manner build partnerships with more and more countries, not just the big blocs like the EU and EFTA or ASEAN, but frankly, even individual countries. Because we are entering a very competitive era where how useful you are to another country economically is a measure of your foreign policy leverage. And India has some work to do that. We can't afford to ignore any country.
How do you see investments coming into India, foreign investments?
Well, in the services sector, they are coming in. In manufacturing, they're a little slow. For the moment, they're waiting to see where tariffs settle. If the tariffs settle at a number which is reasonable and which gives India an advantage over China and Vietnam, particularly in areas such as electronics, mobile phones, garments, toys, shoes, footwear, then you will see some supply chains and some uh, factories moving to India.
One last question. Viksit Bharat. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities in the path to becoming Viksit Bharat?
Broadly speaking, China's rise in the early 2000s took place in a very benign foreign policy and external environment for China. India's rise, as we plan it between now and 2047 or 2050, is going to take place in a very turbulent world. It's a very challenging world, a world where there is no robust growth the way there was in the early 2000s or robust demand. So the external environment is certainly challenging. Second, quite honestly, we have to keep going for not a year or two or three, but for a couple of decades relentlessly, without let up. So it's for us to prove we can do it.
Right. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you and see you soon.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.